Okay, well, welcome back to Comic Book Wednesdays, a weekly series where we're talking about comic books. We're your hosts, I'm Ian.
I'm Al.
And I'm Shane.
And we also have some tidbit notes that Shane has from L. And if you're enjoying our little content here, remember to comment, like, subscribe, interact. This week we're continuing Alan Moore's Watchmen. Um, it's getting a little heavy there, Alan, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of these three issues. I mean, I enjoyed them, but they were a little dark for me. Um, you know, I'm more of a lighter read kind of guy, but they
You're
were
more
they
like
were good issues.
My Little Ponies, shit like that. It's alright, I know.
Absolutely, I'm definitely a brony. Don't even start me on that shit. I can name every one of those little motherfuckers. But yeah, no, they were good reads. Th- like we talked about before, we got on the Doctor Manhattan issue was a little confusing for me because it was, he was very back and forth on what he was with his dates, and like it was a lot of information to take in. Um, but it was a good issue. I think my favorite out of the three was the Rorschach issue because I got a lot of information on him that I didn't know before, which I like the character for who he is because he's really brutal, but he's an interesting character at the same point.
Yeah, and I
hmm
totally get where you're coming from. I think that one, I agree with you, is my favorite of the three. Mostly because anytime the Dark or the Black Freighter comic inside Watchmen comes up, I'm just like really confused because there's multiple conversations happening at the same time, um, and it just kind of throws me off.
It's
Um,
interesting because I'm actually kind of enjoying that comic line in the comic,
I
but I don't like reading him at the same point.
I wonder, like, can you just go in and read the Black Freighter? There has to be like a way to read that standalone, you know?
Yeah, I would think so.
Um, though I do have to say, like, as difficult it is to read Doctor Manhattan's story, um, you got to think like the way that he wrote it is the best way you could write somebody experiencing time at all at once, you know?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
can see that.
But Shane, we haven't heard from you yet. How about some opinions from you?
Sure. The Rorschach bit was a little spicy, but it was interesting. Like backstory, like there were certain bits where drawing parallels to the movie where I saw that they did pretty well and like pulling things directly off of the page. But like that entire issue was just heavy. Um, but the Dr. Manhattan bit was really interesting. I have to say I liked the movie version better just because the movie managed to condense it in a nice enough way where you still got all the information, whereas reading it, like, sure, some of the bits were really interesting and I have some decent notes for it, but there were other times where I was like, okay, come on, get to the fucking point. Dragging it on a little bit, and that just kind of was like a little hard to read.
He repeats a lot of points where it's done a little bit more streamlined in the movie.
hmm
It was interesting to get the information of how he became Doctor Manhattan and the points that he saw coming in the future and hadn't experienced yet, and then experienced them and they were past, and it was very confusing but very well done, like you said earlier.
I can agree with that 100%. Um, does L have any points pertaining to the Doctor Manhattan stuff?
Yes, let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see, Dr. Manhattan, that was the first chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, chapter 4. Dr. Manhattan's perception of time, she says, the way that Alan Moore presents it to the readers. She said, so often we perceive time as linear, yet to Dr. Manhattan, it was like kind of scattered across space and time. linear thinking isn't really reasonable or possible when you're experiencing everything all at once. Said it seems to her that Dr. Manhattan's consciousness seems to be at all points along. Could lead into some multiversal stuff or other things, but knowledge of all events and the ability to see them play out individually or simultaneously can give more understanding into the why of certain people, but also lends into why it's really hard for Dr. Manhattan to perceive emotions and perceive certain things because he's not really human anymore.
Well, and he's
But
seen it all coming already too. So
yeah,
I don't know if he's already dealt with the emotion aspect of it, but
well,
I feel
even
like
Dr. Manhattan makes a great point in there where he says, am I doing this because I'm supposed to be doing this and because it's already happened, or am I doing this because I have free will? I'm just seeing what is going to happen with my choices. And it's like, how do you live with the knowledge of, like, no matter what you do, this is what's going to happen, so you're just kind of along for the ride in some aspects.
I mean, like, the only reason he is sane, quote unquote, is because he doesn't have emotions. I mean, his girlfriend
Mm.
Janie, as soon as she realizes how he sees things, she fucking loses it and leaves him. You know, she's like, I can't
yeah.
take it
Well,
anymore.
him being with a 16-year-old really didn't help.
No, that didn't help.
That's true.
That yeah, that's true. Also, that's kind of fucking weird. Like,
You
Yeah,
think?
when I read that, I
I
was
mean,
like, that's
what clued
disgusting.
you into that one, Ian?
it's nothing like a big old blue guy who doesn't like to wear freaking clothes. You notice, like, every time he progresses through time, he's got less clothes
Loses an
on.
article.
Dude, at one point he just got a banana hammock on that leads to a thong, and I'm like, why is his blue cheeks out? Like,
He just needs to be nicknamed Dr. Touchy.
I'm like, dude, you're a United States employee. You work for the government. I feel like you shouldn't have health care if you can't wear pants.
Maybe they can't pay him for clothes because he keeps expanding his body to mess with
Yeah.
them.
Ooh. Speaking of clothes, and this is something I didn't realize. This is something I didn't realize that Rorschach's
Okay.
mask is made from fabric from a dress of a woman. The dress is like a clothing line inspired by Dr. Manhattan's
Yeah.
outfit.
Yeah,
So,
that was wild. I did not know that.
so that makes sense as to why it moves. So that's kind of cool. I'm into that.
Yeah,
I
that
was
was
wondering
interesting.
how that worked last time we talked, but I didn't bring it up. But it was good to get that information too.
I don't
It's the
even
only
think
power Rorschach has aside from stealing people's snacks.
dude has the power of mental health issues.
Yeah, he's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, if your mom was a quote unquote whore and slept around and then she beat on you when you watched her sleep with somebody, um, I feel
He
like
didn't
I'd be
even
pretty
really watch her.
fucked up.
He just like kind of like went to check on her because she thought she was getting hurt, and she beat the shit out of him for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude paid it.
that part was a little rough to read.
It was
Yeah.
fucked up. And then, the point where he like stabbed the kid's eye out with the fucking cigarette, that was fucking
Yeah.
gnarly as hell, and then bit his face. Um,
It was interesting to see how he perceives the Rorschach tests, though. The blot tests. Like that was
Oh yeah, where he sees the real thing and then he's like, it's a butterfly.
yeah.
just
And the
lying to the
psychiatrist is like,
doctor.
great, you're doing a good job.
One thing I can say is I didn't think that the writer showcased the psychologist all that well. Like, he was like, oh, his like wedding, his marriage like fell apart, but like it didn't seem like it was all that bad. The dude was just working late nights. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know you can't
Yeah,
really
it
dive
seemed
into
like,
it. But
yeah, as a psychologist, the ability to sit back and, to tell your wife like, hey, I'm working late, I'm sorry, this is what's going on, and for her to like berate him a few times because of it, and he was just like, oh, she's berating me again because of this. I kind of understand why, but I kind of don't. It's like you're getting into this character, like you're setting it up for us to pay attention to him for a little bit, but then
Mhm.
at the end of that issue, it kind of like resolves itself, and you're like, okay, that was weird, but all right.
Well, she leaves it.
Yeah, she just leaves,
Well,
and he's just like, okay.
I
it
like
just
that
does.
at the end he was kind of like, "Oh, I get it now." You know, like he was seeing things along Rorschach's line. You know what I mean?
He gets Rorschach and like why
Yeah.
Rorschach believes he's necessary. Um, the one line that Rorschach says when he's in the prison, he's like, "You don't understand. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me." That line always sticks out to me. Like
Hmm.
it's delivered really well in the movie, so I hear the actor saying it when I read it. Um, that's really
Yeah,
good.
I'm gonna. I haven't seen the movie in so long. I think I'm going to watch watch of it once we finish reading the book again.
Would you want to get together and watch the ultimate cut?
I mean, I'd be down for that.
Cool.
What's the
That
ultimate cut?
it's like the director's cut plus it has the Black Freighter mixed in because there's a Black
Oh,
Freighter animated comic.
yeah. I don't know if
Oh,
I could
okay.
get Chelsea to deal with that or to watch that, but I'd
It's
definitely
like
get together and watch
4
that.
hours long.
Oof.
That's
It's
like I couldn't get her to watch the Zack Snyder Justice League movie. She'd watch the original one, but not the not the Snyder cut.
ironically Zack Snyder directed Watchmen also.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Um, yeah. The second issue, I feel like we're glossing over it a bit. We like definitely focused on
We skipped a little.
1 and 3 a lot, or well, they're not really 1 and 3. It's chapters 4 and
4 and 6.
6. To kick us off on 5, why don't you just read L's notes from that?
Sure, I will do that. She's not a fan of using the comic as a narrative within a comic. And like to that, I like a little bit agree because like it's very hard to pay attention to both things and like really get what Alan Moore's trying to get at. It feels like a lot of she said it feels like a lot of beating a dead horse while purposely trying to confuse you. Rorschach almost gives off the same impression in this issue, but think it has more to do with his upbringing and his lifestyle, leading to the fact that he may not have had much of an education, though we hesitate to use this justification for his actions or beliefs. That's what she says. Which
Fascinating.
it does go into the fact that Rorschach really, as we learned in 6, he didn't really have an education. He was, taken from his mother, put into the system, and then it like cuts a little bit to where he's just like a lot, factory worker basically,
Does
Yeah,
he have
absolutely.
any superpowers?
No.
being a
No. Okay.
being a
He's
prick.
just an asshole and a ski mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, literally just an asshole who wants to fuck people up because he feels like society has failed. And he's also mentally unhinged. Um,
Well, who isn't?
yeah,
Hey.
yeah, I agree with the Black Freighter. I never enjoyed that part of this comic. I feel like it just adds more words to the page and makes it lengthy for. And maybe it's just going over my head, but I don't know.
Like I said, I'm actually enjoying the comic of the Black Freighter. I just wish I wasn't reading it at the same time as reading another comic.
That's fair.
Because like the excerpts that we've gotten from the Black Freighter are actually like pretty interesting as far as like the character that they're developing in the Black Freighter and like his mournfulness to get home and using dead bodies to float his raft and like it's a really a kind of a cool character development that you're getting for that specific character, but it's hard to pay attention to both.
Right. I just want to pay attention to the Watchmen. Like that's the story I'm trying to read, and it just kind of feels like it's noise, and it's distracting me.
Well, I also think that's kind of the object of it. You know, because like El said, with the confusion part of it is like, you know, they want to throw a lot of information at you and make you think about what is actually going on in the comic.
That's fair.
You know, I'm gonna have to the next time that comes up, I'm gonna have to try and remember that perspective because I can definitely see what you're getting at. I just have trouble grasping it, but I understand like kind of the why.
I think we're more on the same page. Me and
Well.
Shane. So I'll have to look at it again and just try to be more open.
Yeah.
I will say at the end of 5, one of the things that I specifically noted was that last panel with Rorschach's face, where he's yelling like "Give me back my face," and like really showing that like the person that like before we even get into the psychiatrist issue, like really showing under the mask, like he doesn't even see himself as this person. He's
Oh
just an
no.
alias.
Oh, absolutely. Like his real face is the Rorschach mask.
It reminds me a lot about there was a video I saw of Batman Beyond, and there was this voice in Bruce's head, and it kept saying Bruce, and he was talking to Terry McGinnis, and he was just like, "Yeah, no, I know I wasn't crazy because I know I'm not psychotic, and Bruce is not the name I call myself when I'm inside my own head."
That's kind of psychotic, actually. Like,
Right?
that's kind of it's kind of batsy. Huh? Yeah. Bat shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, if only there was a little Robin whispering in his ear.
Yeah. Uh, there was the other thing that happened in that issue. I think Ozymandias was like attacked in
Mhm.
his office, and the guy like had a cyanide pill or whatever. Um, I think we all have seen the movie, so we know that's a bigger part than it was really portrayed. But yeah, I don't know.
It was interesting to see that in like a written format because like of him just sitting there being bored and being like, "Oh yeah, toy thing, meeting, so excited," and then somebody pulling a gun on him. Like they did a good job with it.
The splash page of him attacking the assailant was really good.
Yeah, that
Had
was
like
cool.
it was done. And again, I think we mentioned the last time we recorded, like the paneling for Watchmen is so good. It's just the way they break it into those even areas, and they just do such a
Was
good job with it.
that scene was just to prove the point that there is somebody coming after the masked vigilantes, right? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if
And
there was something else that I missed there that was deeper than that.
no. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that when we get to like the revelation of Ozymandias and all that kind of stuff. Um, just to avoid spoilers for those who haven't read or read further. Um, but yeah, no,
Because this
I
was
don't.
also where. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's not. Go ahead. You have a point. I want to hear it. I don't have any points.
This was also where um, Rorschach went to Moloch and was just like, why are you on this list? Like, you also have cancer, and he's like trying to investigate this. And Moloch, this old enemy, was just like, I have no idea. Like, I honestly don't know what's going on. Like, you got to believe me. And like Rorschach roughs him up a little bit, but in the end, like he does believe him, only to later, realize that he's being framed,
Yeah,
which I did
Moloch
think was
decides.
interesting.
Yeah, Moloch decides to frame him, which Rorschach probably should have been smarter about. But what are you gonna do?
Villains be villaining.
They do. They do. Okay. Well, I've kind of touched everything that I want to touch. Is there any other things that we should go over before we start wrapping this bad boy up?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that honestly covered it. It was, yeah, we hit on all the major points, I think.
Okay. Yeah. I'll wrap her up then. So next week we are continuing, of course, with Watchmen. Maybe Elle will be with us. Maybe they won't. It depends on their work schedule. Um, if not, hopefully they give us notes again because I love their hearing their points of view.
Yeah.
But so we just did 4, 5, 6. So it'll be 7, 8, and 9, and after that we'll round it out. But so that was Comic Book Wednesdays. Thanks everybody for watching slash listening. Um, we appreciate y'all, and have a good night. We're your
Yeah.
hosts.
Night,
Thank
y'all.
you for listening. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.